Hey everyone, Tankenstein here, and welcome to Stock to Spaded. In this episode, I'll be showcasing the T-64B. This is a currently rank 6, battle rating 9.7, medium/main battle tank in the Russian Ground Forces tech tree, and is currently an optionally unlocked vehicle sitting in the same folder as the T-64A. Now this vehicle is a pretty big upgrade over the standard T-64 in a number of ways, namely being that it has a laser rangefinder, ATGMs, an improved APF SDS in the 3PM42, smoke grenades, it has optionally unlocked ERA as well, a dozer blade, and of course improved armor on both the upper glacis plate and also slightly on the turret. Now we also have a slightly improved turret rotation speed as well as an HMG mounted on top of the turret, which makes this again an overall upgrade. However, the engine remains the same, and we do see around 2.5 to 3 tons extra weight on this compared to the T-64A, and as such, it does have a worse power to weight ratio, even if just slightly. Now that being said, in Stock to Spaded videos, I like to bring these through at least 3 matches, the first match being fully stock, second match being about halfway spaded, and the third match being fully spaded, so you could see whether or not this vehicle is worth looking at in the first place, and possibly if you even want to grind through it entirely like I'll be doing in this video. Now if you don't mind, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, as those all help me out tremendously. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So really quickly here, there are just a few other small differences that we have, including, of course, better heat FS. So this has the 3PK18M, which is substantially better over, I think it's a 3PK12 that the T-64A has. I think it's got like 110 or 130 millimeters more of armor pen, and we also have one fewer shell, or one less shell that we can carry in the ammo rack of this compared to, again, the standard T-64A. Okay, we have an enemy challenger. Got ourselves the gunner, loader, and don't know what this guy's doing, but he's definitely not helping his case. And we have ourselves the kill. Now, do have an enemy way off there in the distance. Looks like a leopard of some kind. Let's see. Got ourselves another kill. Now, we do have an auto loader, which is very nice. 7.1 seconds, not incredible. However, when you only have a crew of 3, having that autoloader actually helps out quite a bit, especially considering, you know, if somebody dies or something, you keep that same rate of loading, which is pretty damn useful, especially in long matches. I actually, because of that, I have a higher rate of success with Russian vehicles than I do with practically anyone else. And there we go with that. Unfortunately, with the heat FS, it's only got 905 meters per second coming out of the barrel, which is just poor at this BR. Even for heat FS, that's really not good. Okay, we have another enemy, a Begleiterpanzer. Not too bad. I mean, overall, thus far, so I am in a complete up tier. Unfortunately, it looks like, I mean, depending on what you want to call unfortunately, it appears as though we've more or less completely annihilated the enemy team. As you can see, we've got them surrounded. I'm not even doing incredibly well, and I've got 3 kills and no deaths. So let's actually do one other really quick fully stock match. That way we can kind of get a better feel for this vehicle. But my very first impressions here with this vehicle, it's a bit sluggish. Turret traverse rate is improved over the T-64, and I do notice that. But it's still not really all that great, especially for this BR. Heat FS is actually pretty good, not absolutely amazing. And I feel like a lot of the big improvements with this vehicle over the T-64, they're going to be coming after purchasing mods, you know? You have to unlock them, because things like, again, the APF SDS, which the 3BM22, which is the top shell for the T-64A, that's actually a tier 1 mod for this. And also, of course, laser rangefinder, the, I wonder, yeah, I'm probably not even going to hit this guy, but the 3BM22 and laser rangefinder, the contact ERA, which pretty much goes all over this thing, they are all mods. So that said, let's get into another match and just kind of finish this one up. So here we are about half, wow, that's a really rare combination. The black with the Object 279. Very rare. Anyways, here we are about halfway spaded. I'm doing a trick here, by the way. With the T-64B. I can't even think. Any hoodles, as you can see, I got myself 4 score. Very cool. Anyways, so I do have the Contact 1 ERA on here, which is nice. I do have the engine upgrade. I got the 3BM 22, which is decent. I mean, it's not like outstandingly good, but it is still an improvement over the earlier lack of ERA entirely, so I can't really complain about it. It does help against Heat FS primarily, gives about 400 millimeters of armor protection versus Heat FS, but also does well against autocannons and also, you know, I guess glancing blows when it comes to APF SDS, so I really can't complain all too much about it. Additionally, I do have a laser rangefinder, and if I haven't already mentioned it, the engine upgrade, both of which, in my opinion, have been very, very good. But I'd say, like, the big 3 upgrades that I've gotten thus far for this thing have been the laser rangefinder, the 3BM 22, as well as, ooh, I'm sorry, buddy, as well as, of course, the Contact 1 ERA. Okay, we have ourselves an enemy kill assist. Those are always very much welcome. Now we can kind of keep on moving on here. Got a TAM kill. If you guys don't know, I love me some TAM kills. TAMs are just so fun to play and to kill because typically they are just a one-shot kill when fighting against them. Hopefully we don't have anyone to my right, but I suspect we do. Oh, it's an ally. That's good. But otherwise, I mean, this thing has actually been pretty good. Its mobility still isn't fantastic, but I will say that it does feel a little bit better than it otherwise probably normally would. So, like, when it starts off, you have something like 15 or 15.5, give or take, horsepower per ton. Nothing really impressive. In fact, actually, I would say pretty mediocre at this BR, but it's still not terrible. And it works. You know, I mean, it doesn't really feel as slow as its stats would kind of imply that it would. So it is definitely good in that regard. But again, in my opinion here, we do definitely have the biggest upgrades being, again, from that, you know, Contact. I would say probably actually the Contact and the APF SDS. And the thing is, too, it's like, yeah, the laser rangefinder is obviously, hopefully obviously, very important, but the thing with the laser rangefinder is that it really... Ooh, is that guy still alive? No, he isn't. That guy is, though. The thing with the laser rangefinder is that once you get the APF SDS, it kind of does the job for you in some ways. I know that's a little bit weird to say, but it's true. I mean, it's got such high muzzle velocity, such high... you know, firing speeds, that it just does the job for you. And look at that! It just deflected some more shells here. I know I'm looking at their spawn, but there's not really all too many other places I can go to right now. So let's see where that kind of shot through. It was hit by DM23, and I was hit through the back. But as you could tell, that Contact 1 ERA is actually very, very good. So, in all, however, this is again halfway spaded with the T-64B. I will tell you guys this. I am very decently impressed. It kind of feels like the last of the old style tanks, but being retrofitted with new things, kind of like what I said with the laser rangefinder and ERA. However, I feel like it does the job pretty decently thus far. I can't say that I'm not impressed, but it does sit at a weird spot in the tech tree, being, again, currently 9.7BR. So that said, let's get fully spaded and see what we could do. So here we are fully spaded with the T-64B. And just so you guys know, this final portion of the video, the fully spaded portion, I am actually recording my audio after recording my match. Typically I record the audio while playing my match, but this is a little bit different just because I had a very difficult time making it very concise, which means that I was rambling on for like 10 minutes while getting like 3 minutes worth of words out. So that being said, basically when it comes to the T-64B fully spaded, there are a few really really good things about this vehicle. One, it has actually pretty damn good armor. Not absolutely amazing, but pretty good, especially versus Heat FS in the form of its composite armor at the front of the hull as well as the front of the turret. But you also have that Contact 1 ERA, which only weighs, if I'm not mistaken, 1.1 tons, but is fairly useful. Again, it does cover the front and the sides of the vehicle, but it is extremely useful, and I feel like it is more than worth that 1.1 tons of extra weight. Then, of course, you have the armament with the 3BM42 APF SDS, which puts out, if I'm not mistaken, 357 millimeters of armor pen at very max, which in my opinion is pretty damn good at this BR. So you have a few good things working for this thing, right? You have the good armor, good armament, but it is lacking in some other areas. For example, this does not have thermals, it only has night vision, which kind of sucks, but you know, at 9.7BR, in my opinion, it's not really guaranteed that you'd be getting night vision anyways, so it's kind of forgivable with this thing. And then, of course, you also have good speed, but not really great. It's like a 5.5 out of 10, maybe in terms of speed. It's pretty average, maybe just a touch above average. So it's got okay speed, not really bad. It's a little bit quicker than you'd imagine, but it's not really great in that role, and I think that's probably its weakest trait. But you also have things like the fact that this has an ATGM that you could fire, which is pretty useful, at least in some instances. So overall, this is a pretty decent vehicle. I mean, you're combining the 3BM42 with the laser rangefinder and Contact 1 ERA over effective composite armor all the way at 9.7BR. That means that this thing is actually pretty damn good. Now, the big problem that I've been facing with this thing is that being that it is 9.7BR, practically all of my matches have been up tiers of some kind. At very least, I think my best match ever with this has been a 10.0 BR up tier. So I know it's not a very major up tier, but that's been like the absolute best RNG, if you will, that I've ever had with this vehicle insofar as up tiers are concerned. And so typically I'm facing 10.3 or even 10.7 BR enemies. And that's where the problem of this vehicle is its BR. Now I feel like this is actually a very fair 9.7 BR, but with War Thunder, that pretty much guarantees that you're going to be in up tiers all the time. And that is a big problem because with the Russian ground tech tree, you only have the Chrysanthema, which is the other 9.7 BR vehicle in the Russian ground tech tree. And that's it. So basically, you're not going to have any other vehicle that you can build a lineup with around this vehicle. So basically, this is either going to be a vehicle that either jumps up your BR. So let's say if you have a bunch of 9.3 BR vehicles and then you decide to throw this into the mix, now all of a sudden they're going to be up tiered like no one's business. Or of course you can have a bunch of 10.0 BR vehicles because there's a bunch of 9.3 and a bunch of 10.0 BR vehicles for the Russian ground tech tree, but hardly any, again, 9.7 BR vehicles. So either you can put this into, again, a 9.3 BR lineup where it will up tier every other vehicle in your lineup like no one's business, or you could use this as a support basically to your 10.0 BR lineup, which I feel like it's actually quite a bit more suited for. But the slight problem with that is that, of course, this is 9.7 BR. It's not going to be quite as good as those 10.0, 10.3 BR vehicles. And of course, even if it has the same armor and also largely the same armament, you have things like thermals and maybe even slightly better armor, or more so, even better mobility than what this has. So you have a lot of issues where it's like, yeah, for the most part, like statically, these are very competitive with 10.0 and 10.3 BR vehicles. But when it comes to technology and mobility, 10.0 and 10.3 BR vehicles tend to be actually quite a bit better than the 9.7 BR T-64B. So again, it's kind of in a really weird spot in War Thunder. It's almost kind of like an Orphan in the Russian ground tech tree, because while it is pretty good as a 9.7 BR vehicle, with the exception of the Chrysanthema, there's nothing around it that can really support it in a lineup. And also, even if it could be in a lineup with other 9.7 BR vehicles outside of the Chrysanthema, it's going to be up tiered all the time. And I saw that pretty much every single match this thing was up tiered. I genuinely don't recall ever being in a single match where I was the top BR tank. And of course, that's going to happen on occasion, but the problem is this happened much more than just being on occasion. It was all the time. So while I do actually really like the T-64B, I feel like this is one of the last manual or analog tanks almost in War Thunder, with the exception of the fact that this has a laser rangefinder. It's mostly manual, and I feel like it's a really cool tank in that regard. But in my opinion, it's a very difficult tank to kind of build a lineup with. So this is not going to be like a main lineup tank but rather, again, I feel like the best thing that you're going to be able to do with this is get like a 10.0 BR lineup. Let's say, for example, you have the T-72 AV terms, maybe like the T-80 UD, and then you just kind of slap this in on the side where it can play and be successful in those matches, because again, I had to be successful in those matches and I did it fairly often. Or of course, you just kind of don't buy this thing at all. So I feel like this is a pretty good vehicle. I actually really like the T-64B. It's not at all a perfect vehicle. Again, it doesn't have thermals. Mobility is just decent, but its armor and armament are great. So do I recommend this thing? Yes, for the most part, I do. Again, you have to go in with the expectation that this is not going to be a vehicle that you can build a lineup around. Rather, this is going to be a support vehicle. You're not going to be well served by putting this into a lineup with your 9.3BR tanks unless you absolutely have to, but I would strongly recommend getting some 10.0 BR tanks and then using this kind of as a support tank after your other 10.0 or so BR tanks have gotten destroyed in your match. So yes, I do like this vehicle. I feel like it's a really cool vehicle, again, in that this is kind of like a last hurrah for like the manual tanks, but at the end of the day, it's a BR Orphan where it just doesn't fit in much of anywhere, at least in the current Russian ground tech tree. But that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you don't mind, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing. I would greatly appreciate that. This is a little bit quicker than what my original fully spaded match was supposed to be, and it is quite a bit more concise too. So that being said, again, thanks so much, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.